Hi, I'm Nick Wiltshire. I'm the Technician Demonstrator in Photography here at BNU. I'm going to give you a bit of a tour of all the facilities that we have here, give you a bit of information about what kind of equipment we have. So let's start. We've got two studios here. So there's a larger studio and then a smaller studio. We tend to call this one the daylight studio. So you might be able to see we've got blackout blinds here. These can be raised up, and actually you've got diffused kind of blinds underneath as well. So you can actually, when the sun kind of comes in through the window, which it does around about the middle of the day, depending on the time of year, you can actually use it as a kind of like daylight studio without flash. What we have here, this is a medium format Pentax 645Z or Z, it's got a basic setup here with the flash units that we have in this studio, which are Elinchrom. So we use these in here. We've also got, we use these as well, which are continuous light LEDs. I won't turn it on. These kind of basically kind of run with video. It makes it easier for kind of beginners to learn photography because you're not using the flash, which these Elinchrom use. So that's quite nice. We have backdrops, lots of different backdrops in this studio, so it's kind of primarily used as a portrait studio, this side of things. Around here, we have a little gantry system which is used for still life. So there's a still life table, kind of infinity table, which you can kind of use to place things on and kind of like create different kind of still lifes, put different types of background in, use very creative lighting. This is semi-opaque, so you can put lighting up through underneath and so on and so forth. And as you can see, we have the ability to tether to laptops, and in the other room we've got an Apple Mac in there that you can kind of tether to. The software that I'm using in here is Capture One. We've got Capture One throughout the facilities. So it's kind of like one of the bedrocks of doing digital professional photography. So yeah, you can kind of like work with that, save it onto the computer, save it into the cloud, and so on and so forth. The camera that I'm using in there is a Nikon D780. They're the most used for photography students in the facility. So we've got a lot of those cameras and D750s, and we've just bought in a whole load of lower end Nikon ZFC cameras, which are kind of like, your vloggy kind of cameras for general use as well, which are all nice and retro and kind of like, easy to use and great for learning how to do photography. So this is our larger studio. As you can see, it's all been blacked out, black ceilings, black walls. It means that light can be controlled a little bit better and a little bit easier. In here we have Bowen's equipment, plus also more of the LED lights, which I was sort of showing you next door, which are the continuous lights. So we've got a number of those different kind of heads, which we call heads, the actual kind of light itself. Again, you've got a bigger sweep background that you can create, so you can do more stuff and like bigger groups and so on and so forth. It just gives you a bit more space. It's kind of like the premier kind of like space for doing, kind of fashion and portraiture. Again, as you can see here, you've got the Mac computer, so you can tether the camera to the actual kind of, to Capture One in there. Or Lightroom, we have Lightroom as well. Some students prefer it, some people prefer it. Talking about the software we have, it's a whole raft of different things. And we don't want to kind of like constrain people just to be doing stills. So we bring in kind of like Cinema 4D, obviously all of the Adobe suite, so you've got Premiere in there and so on and so forth. But then you've also got other tools like Illustrator, InDesign, not obviously Photoshop, which we do a lot of work on. But we tend to kind of like try to, persuade, it's not the right word, encourage students to use Capture One initially to kind of like process their images before they then take them into Photoshop if they need to. So again, as I say, it's a simple lighting setup that we've got here. Using the Bowens lights, lots of different kind of styles of modifiers to the lighting. So if you can see here, we've got these great big soft boxes, and we've got a number of different shapes of those soft boxes, but it's not restricted to that. Try to find something that is different. Bear with. So you've got things like this, which is like a beauty dish, which gives you a different quality of light. So we've got a number of different things that they can use within the studio to kind of get lots of different kind of flavors within their photography. Okay, so this is our scanning and partially digital print room. I'll talk about the digital print in just a little while, but just to kind of show you some of the more analog equipment and facilities that we have. We have over on this side of the room 3 flatbed scanning Epsom scanners, and we've got a specialist way of actually using these scanners, using a sandwich of glass to hold the negative very, very flat, which gives us a good scan, a very sharp scan. But the best scanner that we have is this Dalek-looking thing over here, which is actually a Hasselblad Flex-Tight scanner, and it basically bends the negative to kind of like give you a very flat plane where it's actually kind of like scanning in, and it's just very, very sharp and of top quality. The equipment that we've got as far as analog photography in the facility ranges all the way through from small format 35mm cameras through medium format cameras, you can see here in the Mamirs, they're both Mamirs, and then we have a number of large format sheet film cameras as well. So a large array of different cameras. This is only a small selection to give you a bit of an idea. And we'll show you hopefully the darkroom in just a little while, where you can do black and white printing and processing and a few other things as well. As far as digital print is concerned, within here we've got a large format scanner. There is a vinyl cutter, large format vinyl cutter, which for photography is maybe not quite as useful, although we're trying to find ways. It means that you can cut round self-adhesive vinyl and create lots of different spaces, which shapes that you can kind of like stick with against the wall or wherever really. And then moving around to the Riso printer. This is a new addition we've just got in, and that means that we can kind of do color separations and digital printing, and things like zines, magazines, even books and so on and so forth you can kind of do through this machine, which is kind of great. The other machinery that we do have in another room is large format inkjet printing, and also mounting, so they can be mounted onto things like MDF and this thing called Foamex, which is like a kind of like plastic board, and so on and so forth. Create frames even if you wanted to. But the large format printer is very top quality, so it's photographic quality, what would be kind of classed as giclée in some places. So we've got very top quality printing ability through that. Okay, so this is our darkroom. It's a black and white darkroom, so we only print and process black and white images in here. As you can see, we've got an array of different enlargers. Enlargers basically enable you to kind of take a negative, which may be about that big, and enlarge the image onto these baseboards, so you can create a print which might be anything up to about 20 inches by 16, something like that. We can print to a very, very high quality. If you remember when we were looking at some of the cameras, we can print up. We've got cameras which have got negatives up to around about the size of 5x4. In fact, actually, we've even got a 10x8, which is very, very big, but incredibly expensive. So we can print from very, very high quality negatives and as I say, onto kind of like quite a large size. There's two different types of quality to the actual paper. There's resin coated, which is like it's like a traditional photograph, if you can remember what that looks like. But then there's this thing called fibre-based, which is much more museum quality, archival quality. It lasts longer, and we've got the ability to be able to print using that paper. The machinery that we've got around here includes this old dryer that works very well, and this dries our fibre-based paper. It's probably older than I am, which is saying something. So we've got a lot of ability to do different processes and that type of thing. Students come in and they can process in this room as well. So when they've taken their photograph with their camera, their analog film camera, they come in and process, and then they go right through to actually printing, enlarging their image, and getting a lovely printed, finished image. We can also do a few other processes like liquid emulsion, and we got other processes as well in various different areas, things like Van Dyke and cyanotypes and so on and so forth. So it's a rich and varied different ways of kind of getting an output. Before I was talking about digital print, so we've got very high NG clay if you're doing digital work, but then you've got the ability to kind of do analog stuff as well, and mix things up as well, use the ISO, to kind of create lots of different types of imagery with your photography. So it's all very useful, lovely space. So this is our Mac suite. In here, students can come in and use the computers as much as they like. We obviously do a certain level of teaching in here as well, of various different things, obviously digital. There's a few flatbed scanners here as well, which are a bit lower end than the ones in the other room, but students are kind of free to use these as much as they like as well. All these iMacs are all, I think they're 2019. I'm running the latest operating system. We have an array of different kind of software. As I was mentioning in the studio, we've got Capture One and Lightroom, Adobe Creative Cloud software, so that's Photoshop, and going into all of the different areas. I think they can use absolutely every different piece of software that they have in the Creative Cloud or Adobe Creative Suite. But mainly, we use, as I say, Lightroom, Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. And then, we do moving image as well. So there's a number of different pieces of software for audio, and a Premiere as well. And we teach photography students how to use that. As well as that, in here we have some Wacom tablets that students can take out and use. Wacom tablets are little pen tablets, are very, very high quality, to make precision editing a lot easier. And so and that's pretty much it as far as this room is concerned. So thank you very much, and yes, thank you for enjoying this tour. I hope you have enjoyed it.